The race is fast. It is grueling. It is competitive. It is prestigious. It is personal. Welcome to the 46th running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona.
It is one of the toughest tests in sports car racing in the world. This is the Rolex 24 at Daytona for the 46th time. This classic event is underway. If you've made the switch over from Fox or tuning into Speed for the first time, we welcome you to Daytona International Speedway. 29 laps down and so many more to go. Hello everyone, Lee Diffie along with David Hobbs and Dorsey Schrader. We're off to what has been quite a frantic start.
It's been very frantic right from the start, even on the pace lap when 14 cars came in to change tires because they decided to go on the wet weather tires. Of course, it dried out before the race started. They decided to come in and they got held for a vital few seconds there, but it wasn't quite as bad as it might have been for them.
Of course,
saw the tire come apart on Harry Castroneves' car with pretty disastrous consequences for him.
You always want to know who is sitting where. This is our overall and Daytona prototype race leader, Matt Plum for Siegel Sports, the BMW-powered Riley. He leads defending champion Alex Gurney in the Bob Stallings Gainsco Lowe's machine. And Max Angelelli is in the top 3 overall. There's been a tremendous tussle in GT between defending champion Dirk Werner, Patrick Huisman, and David Murray in the Autometrics car, but problems for Dirk Werner.
Lee brought the number 87 Farnbacher Lowe's Porsche to pit lane. We saw that there's some damage to the right rear under tray, but more importantly, up on the left front. The crew going to work right now on the suspension. It could very well be with that left front suspension broken, the car sitting back down on the right rear. They had tried disconnecting the rear sway bars to improve the handling. That obviously was not where the problem is. This will be a long fix. They finished 14th here last year, still managed to win the championship. But anytime you start the season in a deficit, it's hard to make it back up, Chris.
Jimmie Johnson is on deck in the 99 car. Jimmie, a minute ago, you were on headsets with the team engineer, Kyle Brannan. What kinds of things were you discussing?
I was just talking about the start of the race, how it's gone, the pace and where we think we need to be and what we need to do. The issue that Elio had with that right front tire, that's something we're all really worried about. So I think it's going to be very important to take care of your tires throughout the night and have tires to race on tomorrow when it's time. So we're just going to talk to them a strategy along those lines.
Now, I know the team has been dealing with some brake issues leading up to this race. Where does the car stand at this point?
We got it. We got it for the last practice yesterday. And Alex has been very happy with the balance of the car. And we're just trying to log miles.
Now, you've got a busy week in front of you. You've got testing in Vegas and Fontana, and then a bunch of obligations at the Super Bowl. You're not getting any rest here.
No, I sat on the couch for a couple of weeks, got bored, committed to all of these things, and now I'm looking at what I have in front of me thinking, why'd I do this? But I'm really going to enjoy it. The testing I'm looking forward to at the car tomorrow on the big tracks, and then the Super Bowl stuff. Nick Lachey and I are putting on a celebrity golf tournament that's taking place on Saturday and has some other fun stuff going on, so we're excited.
How's your golf game?
My golf game is steady, like mid-90s to high 90s, and I'm more into getting out with my friends, get some side bets going, harassing each other, that kind of thing.
Well, let's just hope he doesn't fall off any golf carts. Calvin?
Well, David Donahue is in here with an unscheduled stop in the 58 machine, been running great right in the top 5, but we're not sure what the problem is. They've changed the tires, topped them up with fuel. Certainly there was quite intense investigation under the front wheel well, so whether David was feeling some kind of vibration or whatever, maybe a flat spot, but he's back underway, but servicing a pit stop like this under green will cost him dearly.
Well, we talked about it at the beginning of the show on Fox that these tires are new. We don't have any data on this particular tire, so a vibration like that, you don't take any chances. Not here at Daytona. It's a long way around here, and you're running 185, 190 mile per hour. If you lose a tire, you're going to lose more than just that.
Mentioned earlier that Matt Plum in the 7 Siegel Sport entry leads the way. Alex Gurney is second in the 99. Gainscow, Bob Stallings' Lowe's machine, then Max Angelelli. Just to finish a point here, both Brumos cars are in the familiar white, red and blue, the colours typically run by Hurley Hayward. Now here's the 7. This is the race-leading car in under green flag conditions. How quickly can they service Matt Plum? Siegel Sport Crew had some disappointment in the off-season. They celebrated a new sponsor coming on board, but sadly at a very crucial time, that sponsor went away. And that has created some dramas for the team. A lot of the personnel are actually volunteering their services. So some tough times for Siegel Sport, but they'll be celebrating leading this race early on.
This looks fairly routine. However, now I start to question something that'll play out later in this race, and that is fuel mileage. This is the first of these cars to come in and what looks to be a regular pit stop. Look how long it takes to get the fuel in the car. He finally gets that done, and away the car goes.
And lighting it up as he leaves the pits, double stinting is Matt Plum, and you will see a lot of the driver combinations doing that. They will do 2 stints at a time. In saying that, the Ruby Tuesday Championship Racing team did not. Joey Hand stepped out, and Bill Auberlen is now behind the wheel of the Porsche-powered 23. For those of you who weren't with us on Fox, let's bring you up to speed with the opening hour's highlights. It's an all Mike Shank Ford-powered Riley front row. Problems, though, in the GT class before they even got to the green flag. Scooter Gable colliding with the Autometrics Porsche of Anthony Lazzaro, and that was a nightmare start. Max Angelelli made an early run for the lead and got it, but with the rain drizzling, problems for Elio Castro Neves in the Penske Taylor Pontiac. Deflated front right tyre, a little bit of body damage, and that caused our first and only full course caution. We are back with our current leader now, and the defending series champion Alex Gurney. His father Dan, we will be talking to shortly here on Speed, acted as the Grand Marshal here for the 46th Rolex 24 at Daytona, and a very proud moment to have his son starting the race as the defending series champion.
Bob Stallings, team owner, will be very happy to see this 99 car back in the front. They didn't qualify that well. They've been really chasing the car here at Daytona. So now to the front, the 99 goes once again.
Behind Gurney is Angelelli, then Negri, who was our pole sitter. Superb performance, new DP track record, incidentally, in qualifying. Mark Wilkins has been a standout performer for AIM Autosport so far this weekend. Then it's the Stallings Riley Matthews car of Mark Goossens in 5. Scott Pruitt and Scott Dixon 6 and 7, the 2 Ganassi cars. The Telmex and Target Daytona prototypes. Then Bill Auberlen is 8. Mike Rockenfeller in the Samax entry is 9, and AJ Allmendinger in the second Shank Ford is running in the top 10. That's how it stands in Daytona prototypes. In GT, Patrick Huysman for Synergy still leads the way over Dave Murray and Sylvain Tremblay, the first of the Mazdas. Mike Shank said yesterday that I asked him about the switch doors from Lexus to Ford power plants and going with the new Riley bodywork. And Mike Shank said, this reminds me of in the late 90s when I was running a Toyota Atlantic team and I switched to the Swift chassis. It was a very pivotal point in our career, and he said it was a similar gamble, but in my mind it was a gamble I had to take, and so far so good. It's paid off. And
this Ford engine package was just kind of just sitting there. It looked like it was a good package early on. It got phenomenal fuel mileage, good performance on top end, but no one was running it. I think Mike Shank really did the thing right by going to Ford, and of course they've done ongoing development on that. And we're going to see how tough this Ford engine is at the end of this race tomorrow.
On the 60 and the 6, or rather just the 60, is the Westfield Insurance Group. And renewing their sponsorship on the 61 is the Exchange Traded Gold. Mark Wilkins behind the wheel, Colin Brown, Andrew Ranger, Brian Frizzell. Not one driver in that car over the age of 24.
That's just not right.
The young guns.
Indeed.
It'll be great to see how it all pans out. There's Mark Goossens. Boy, the experience difference between those two cars, those two drivers, is immense. It just shows what a great job that Mark Wilkins is doing. In behind Goossens is Scott Pruitt. You ride with Scott right now, and he has his teammate Dixon. Scott Dixon right behind him.
Scott Pruitt's car was one of the cars at the beginning that was out there on rain tires that had to come in before the start, even the green flag fell, and go behind, get some guys put on. So he's just now catching up.
The real interesting story with both Ganassi cars and their superstar driver lineup is the report from the team is that there is a feeling of cohesiveness and just togetherness like they have never seen. Every one of these top-line drivers wants to do this, not because they have to, because they're under contract. They want to do it. They want to get that historic third win. They want to do it not only for their sponsors and Chip Ganassi, they want to do it for themselves. So there's a real determination within the Chip Ganassi Racing with Felix Sabates garage. 99 is in. Gurney brings it in. Brian Till is standing by.
Alex Gurney on the mark 7 times in 2007. They found victory circle. Looking for it here. Bad luck at Daytona in 2006, taken out by a spinning car. And then in 2007, problems very early on within the first handfuls of laps. Little fluid leaking out of the back of this car, so temperature's a little bit up, I would think, on the 99 machine. Full fuel, waiting for to go in. New Pirelli tires all around. Alex Gurney sits in the car and waits. But it is really getting warm out here, guys. A lot of fluid out of the back of the car. Gurney's still sitting there. Unlike stock cars, it takes a long time to fuel these with these very narrow fuel hoses. The fuel is finally in. Gurney's away.
Boy,
Close call.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of cars pitting now, and they're going to have to watch this on pit lane.
That was the 50 Black Forest Motorsports Mustang. It was a very slender margin there. Now, just before Alex Gurney brought the 99 in, the 58 of David Donahue pitted, and it has been somewhat of a troublesome time. Cal, can you update us on this?
Well, this is a big disappointment for this team because they were certainly one of the favorites for this 24-hour event. They always run strong here, and David Donahue certainly had the car at the sharp end of the field. And he's been in twice now, Lee. First time they thought it was a puncture on one of the tires, and then David was back in saying, no, there's some kind of vibration on the front end. So they, again, went underneath the bonnet there and tried to look at the suspension, but again, didn't find anything. So unless they got another rogue tire or something that's out of balance possibly, but certainly not the start they were looking for.
And I said it before, when you get a vibration in a race car that on a track as fast as this, it doesn't ever fix itself. You really have to identify what it is because it will shake the thing literally apart.
Mike Colucci and Dan Davis. That's the man who is the owner of Brumos Motors, sitting center of the screen there. Dramas with the 58, but they've got 2 cars in this race. An interested onlooker, Chip Ganassi, so much on the line, and a couple of legends enjoying the day out here at Daytona. Speed's coverage of the Rolex 24 at Daytona is brought to you by Rolex, a crown for every achievement. And powered by the first ever Pontiac G8, the official car of the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series. Ten car has just pitted. Tell us more, Calvin Fish.
Well, it was routine, just what you'd want in a 24-hour race, Lee. The boys just serviced the car, topped him up with fuel, sent him underway with new Pirelli tires. So far, so good for this team that won here back in 05. Max Angelelli staying behind the wheel.
David Hobbs has just taken a break, but David will be back with Bob Varsha shortly. It's Dorsey up here with me, Lee Diffie, Calvin Fish, Brian Till on pit road, and we're real glad to have Chris Neville and Andrew Marriott along as well today. The full team here for the Rolex 24 at Daytona. 17 hours in total of coverage, 15 and a half here on speed, and we're very pleased and proud to bring you that. The man who put it on pole, who has so many fans here today, friends and fans I should say, Oswaldo Negri. Cristiano De Matta was one of his closest friends to come up and congratulate him on a brilliant pole position win. And he said, that's only part of the deal. He said, yeah, it's important to me, and I'm pretty thrilled to do it for myself and Mike Shank and our new combination of things. But I really want to go all the way and win this race.
You look back not far behind, a second and a half is Mark Wilkins, Mark Goosens, and Scott Pruitt all there together, but they're not really that far behind Ozzy. In fact, there they are right now.
There is the sister Shank car. This is the one that AJ Allmendinger started on the front row and continues to campaign. Like I was saying a little while ago, most of the drivers will double stint. And that's exactly what's going on here. AJ feels very much a part of this Shank team, really loves it. Now here's a new color scheme for the Samax team. This is the superstar lineup of Alan McNish, Lucas Luer, Mike Rockenfeller, and one of the driving forces behind this, Henry Zogabe. And there's quite a detailed story behind the Florida Children's Hospital and the paint scheme on this car. We'll tell you that story a little later on in the broadcast, but it is quite a heartwarming one, and one with a very good message.
Duking back and forth there, trying to figure out which lane, who's going to go where.
Mike Rockenfeller had a throttle problem during qualifying and was furious, had to stop the car, fix it himself while out there during qualifying, get going again, and was able to salvage 14th place. And we were standing in his pit box when he came back in, was furious with what had actually occurred. But at the end of the day, Dawson, a 24-hour, it really means little.
No, it doesn't make much difference whatsoever. I mean, you put the car in the field as solidly as you can, but it makes no difference if you're at first or last. Not in 24 hours. A lot of stuff goes on.
Some reports from the track that there may be fluid leaking from the back of the 99 Gainsco Lowe's Pontiac.
Well, we'll watch for it, that's for sure.
Boys on pit lane are following up on this story. They're in search of not only a win, but their first top 10 in the Rolex 24. It has not been their event. 2006, they started 3rd, finished 13th. 2007, started on pole, finished 22nd.
I really don't see any problem with this car whatsoever. I mean, if it is leaking fluid, it's not enough even to make a mist at this point anyway.
There's Kyle Brannan, the engineer.
They're looking too, see if they can spot anything.
And of course, as always, and with every sports car team, it really is a true team effort. But Kyle Brannan can take a lot of the credit with this car. Very intelligent engineer. He's some 3-time championship winning engineer, 2 in Toyota Atlantics and 1 now here in the Rolex Sports Car Series. Bob Stallings, the team principal, puts a lot of faith in him, and in turn Kyle puts a lot of faith in his drivers. And speaking of the man, let's hear from him.
Kyle Brannan, engineer for the 99 car. Now, I doubt that you're going to tell me really what I'm expecting to hear, you know, a true answer, but I saw a lot of fluid out of the back of the 99 on that last stop. Seemed to be getting pretty hot. We're talking about some fluid leaking out of the back of it right now. Is everything okay?
Yeah, everything's fine.
How did I know that was going to be the answer?
I don't know what. It's probably just a little overflow from sitting there, but we're all okay. Everything's good.
No, none of the officials have said anything about anything on track?
No. No.
Perhaps they've gotten the monkey off their back, guys, but I didn't really expect to hear anything other from Kyle then. Everything's okay, Cal.
Defending champion is in. Scott Pruitt behind the wheel of the 01 machine. He started the car. He's going to stay in. Essentially, it'll be 2.5 stints when he gets to the point where he'll probably need to jump out. So the team goes to work here. Everyone orchestrates these wheel changes a little bit differently, as you can see. So some guys just stay on the front end. Some guys do sides, but certainly Chip Ganassi Racing have got the art mastered. They've won this race 2 times in a row. Waiting for fuel. Servicing is done. Everything looks pretty smooth right now for these boys.
Of course, the Ganassi operation is a 3-tiered program with their Sprint Cup efforts, the IndyCar efforts, and then the Rolex Sports Car Series efforts. Whoa, we've got a wheel off on the front stretch.
That's the back stretch,
It's the back going down towards the bus stop.
Yep, and it's up against the wall, but it won't stay there.
It's the does it belong to the Brumos car?
Well, I don't know. I can't tell yet.
Porsche's going quite slow there.
It's going to head toward the infield here in a moment, and that's not where we want to see it go. I don't know. We haven't seen the car yet. It's rolling along there up by the wall. It's okay if it stays there.
It's the 09 Spirit of Daytona. This is the 8-cylinder Porsche.
Well, it is the 09. You can see it now coming toward the pits. Pretty stiff chassis. It's staying upright. Guy Cosmo behind the wheel will bring that to be serviced. Now you got to wonder if it's going to do damage to the brake rotor. It's probably riding along on that right front rotor. I think the right front is what's missing. Yep.
Well, where has the wheel ended up, Dorsey?
It's still out there somewhere. Well, it's not on the rotor. The suspension's up in the air, so it's on the skid plates on the chassis. Probably no damage done.
Now, we have a replay ready to roll for you. See if we can unravel this situation. Look way up the track. Look way up high.
Coming off the banking.
There it is there.
Yeah, it's already off. It's up there coming out of NASCAR 2. It didn't upset the car. That's the good news.
Brian?
Well, Guy Cosmo has climbed out. Really not a lot of damage. I see a little wear to the under tray, but Dorsey, as you said, this car obviously very stiff because it was not down on the brake rotor when it came in, so that is the good news. The other good news is Guy Cosmo did an excellent job of keeping the car on track when the front wheel left it. They're going to take the nose off, look underneath, maybe do a little bit of work. See them unplugging the pigtail, which is the wire that goes to the headlights on these Daytona prototypes. That has to be unplugged, and they're pulling the hood off. They're going to look underneath to make sure there is no suspension damage to that right front, and they'll go back on with a new nose. The crew member checking underneath what we call the front porch or the front splitter, making sure it's okay. A new nose going back on, and they'll get this Porsche-powered car back on track.
Yep, the only Porsche-powered fab car out there. This is the 60, our race leader, Oswaldo Negri, and we understand that the wheel has come to a stop up against the wall just before the entrance to the chicane, the bus stop, so it's safely out of the way. Whether it can be retrieved, we'll find out. There's your top 5 overall and in DP. And GT, it's the pole sitter, Sylvain Tremblay, leading the way. As soon as the Rolex 24 starts, it's a countdown to the end, but you can start counting down to the NASCAR Sprint All-Star Race on speed. Just 113 days to go before NASCAR's biggest stars go head-to-head. NASCAR on speed. The All-Star Race, we look forward to that each and every year. Let's talk GT here at the Rolex 24. New car, new sponsor, and not necessarily a new outlook, because Sylvain Tremblay and Speed Source are determined to win this race. They always are. They've worked very, very hard, not only on their own efforts, but some customer cars. 4 cars here in this field, 4 Mazda RX-8s have come out of Speed Source Engineering and are all beautifully prepared and turned out. Sylvain leads the way, but he is being chased hard by 2 TRG Porsches. First up, it's Spencer Pumpelly, right there with him, just a car length behind. And then a little further back, Dorsey, is Martin Raginger, the young Austrian, who is doing a wonderful job. And if you think you're busy or you've had a hard day at work, put yourself in Kevin Buckler's shoes. He's got 7 cars here. Let's hear from the man.
It's not like Kevin Buckler's not like a cat on a hot tin roof on a regular basis. 7 cars, 33 drivers, 2 of them in the top 3 right now, Kevin. This seems to be a lot on your plate.
Yeah, this was, 6 months of preparation. And this is like the tip of the iceberg. The rest of it, the Titanic sinker, was all back at the shop. We've been working on this for so long. Assembled this awesome group of drivers, crew members, team, with the experience we've got. And, we're 1 hour in. I can't get too excited, but, we're right where we want to be.
All right, let's talk Pirelli tires real quick. Kind of an unknown, but you guys seem to be able to double stint them early in the daylight. That's good news, especially for the nighttime hours.
We really worked hard during the Pirelli tire test. It was nice they were Grand American, and Pirelli arranged that for us to get used to these tires. These tires are fantastic. The grip level's great. We can't believe how far they'll go, and we're probably going to be able to double stint them at night. Good for the guys if they stay in, it's cold. You don't have to send them out on cold tires. Those next couple laps will be real familiar. Otherwise, you got to be careful.
Kevin Buckler certainly knows how to get a car around in these endurance races. They've won here, and they've won at Le Mans, guys.
Brian mentioned over 30 drivers representing TRG. There's over 100 people here working for Kevin Buckler, whether professionally or in a volunteering basis. It's a huge logistical effort, but TRG are doing it well. We go to one of their rivals. We climb on board the 07 Pontiac GXPR and the very fast Paul Edwards, pushing hard.
Watch what happens here. This Pontiac, a beautiful car, is a great handling car, but it's the widest and biggest bodied car in the field. And here at Daytona, that width, you see it right here, it slows the car up. It hits a big air wall. It can't accelerate past the drag factor that the body's producing. Look at the Porsches on the other hand. Narrow frontal area, and they just out-top end this Pontiac.
And that looked to me like Wolf Hensler just blowing on by in the Farnbacher-Lowles entry. There are some amazing drivers in this GT field here today, and over the next course of however long you want to say, we will detail those, because many of the drivers have said this is the best ever GT lineup in particular that they have ever seen. First and second, 2 Ford-powered cars.
We talked about that Ford engine, that power plant that looked, it had so much promise, no one was running it. And I think everybody had a hard look over the winter and said, let's give that a try. Of course, also, the Ford power plant, a lot of developmental work went into it. They've got a lot of weight off it. It was a heavy engine. They've gone to carbon fiber intake manifolds and valve covers and so forth. Got the weight down on that engine. It looks to be promising.
Well, if you look at the overall landscape of Ford's involvement with the Rolex Sports Car Series in the DP era, and they got off to a wonderful start when Multimatic won the very first Daytona prototype race here at the Speedway. Then you look to the next high point, and that was when Krone Racing and Jörg Bergmeister campaigned and won the Drivers' Championship. A great moment. But then they kind of disappeared last year. Kevin Doran has campaigned them faithfully ever since the beginning of the Daytona prototype era, but they are back. Dan Davis, Ford Racing, they are back big time. And look at this. They had the front row locked down. Mark Wilkins and AIM Autosport and the drivers have been doing a phenomenal job there. Mike Shank Racing, and of course Kevin Doran's 77 Kodak Doran Ford. They're well represented. They're doing a great job. Negri dives for pit lane. That puts Mark Wilkins in the lead of this motor race.
The double cone right there, that's the speed limit that you have to get down to so you don't get an infraction for speeding. Oz is getting out.
Into the double stint. Time for a driver change. Will it be Mark Patterson, his regular co-driver, who steps in? Will it be the lanky Justin Wilson? Judging by those legs, it's Justin.
I'd say you're right there. They take all the seat insert out.
Mark is tall as well. Now it is Justin. Cal?
I had to use my lanky legs to get down here, Lee. It is Justin Wilson getting in behind the wheel. Routine stop here, everything looking good. In fact, if anything, looks like this driver change may, if anything, hang up the stop a little bit. Indeed, it does. Mike Shank over the wall, replacing the driver. You're allowed to do that. Bring an extra crew member in, replaces the driver. Probably lost 2 or 3 seconds there. And that's a consequence of getting a really short guy out like yourself, Lee, and getting a really tall guy like myself in the car.
You also see him take one of the tear-offs off the windshield to get a clean windscreen to go back out there to do battle.
We have many hours of coverage, Shorty. I'll remember that. So Justin Wilson, he's been a Champ Car bridesmaid over the past few years. I think he's about to make a big announcement about his 2008 campaign. We look forward to that. But a young man, 24-year-old Canadian, Mark Wilkins, leads the way. The wonderful aerial coverage here at Daytona International Speedway brought to you by DirecTV, reminding you NASCAR Hot Pass only on DirecTV puts you right behind the wheel. And it has been a memorable start to this year's Rolex 24 at Daytona, the 46th running of it. A Gurney out on track, and even more famous Gurney up here in the booth. Dan Gurney joins us. Mr. Gurney, we have to say thank you for your time. Have you enjoyed your role as Grand Marshal already?
So far, it's been wonderful. Great Southern hospitality.
And your son, Alex, the defending Daytona prototype champion, off to a solid start?
Yes, I was a little confused in the beginning, but, you know, this is a long race.
Sure. Well, here he is at the wheel. Talk about your emotions watching him last year, because for him, winning the Daytona Prototype Championship along with his good friend and co-driver John Fogarty, that was the biggest moment in his motor racing career. I know that you didn't make it to all of the race meetings, but tell us what it was like sitting at home watching.
Well, it was much more nerve-wracking than I expected it to be, and the competition was tremendously tough, and everything was very narrow margins, and he kept coming through, he and his teammate Juan Manuel Fogarty, and they had a lot of fun.
Well, let's talk about, let's wind back the clock a little bit. Of course, something we always talk to when we refer to you is back in 1962. Take it away.
Uh-oh. Oh, that's the old starts, right? Fantastic. We had a really stellar field. Looking back on it, a lot of the big names at the time. Oh, this is where the engine was broken, and then I turned left and used gravity to go across and win. That was a... Now, they made a rule right after that that said you couldn't do that anymore, so I guess it's the last we'll see of it. Yeah.
How quickly did you think to do that, to go to that measure?
You know, it occurred to me pretty early, as I had about a quarter of a mile to coast to get there, and I don't know why, but I was paying a lot of attention to the 3-hour mark anyway, and it just worked out. It was lucky.
Well, it must be a lot of fun here for you. There's a lot of your old friends, a lot of guys you raced against. Our own David Hobbs over here. He was poking some fun at you a little earlier, so you should get it back while you can.
Yeah. David, yeah, he said he was in that race, as a matter of fact. But that's the first I heard of that. But
he probably didn't do so well tonight.
Dan,
no, he said he was out after 20 laps, is what he told me. Difficulty, yes.
We've been talking a lot about this field and the drivers and the caliber and the quality of the drivers in this field. You impressed?
How many here?
Oh, we got a problem here. One of the Mazdas, a 40. Something behind the front. It looks like a tire again. And that might be the inner fender panel that's hanging off there.
Yeah, this is the Hypersport car. This is the Patrick Dempsey car with his teammates Charles Espenlaub, and one of the Chiva racing cars, one of the Pontiac Coyotes, in trouble. 51 of Tommy Erdos is stranded. While we take a look at that, let's get an update from Cal.
Well, the crew are trying to identify through Charles Espenlaub on the radio what the real problem is. They had a flat tire, and they believe that the flailing rubber may have in fact damaged an oil line, so they're trying to talk Charles through the issue without suffering further damage. So I'll keep you updated, boys.
Well, we're on board right now. That is Charles Espenlaub. You see right here, this is part of the tire. That's the tire carcass, so it's flapped around. It's also taken out the headlight cover here. Now, up inside there, we don't know what's behind that panel, but there's been a lot of damage done to it. If there's an oil cooler in there, which there might be, or an oil line that goes to an oil cooler, that could be exactly what they're talking about. It looks like to me that there's fluid right here underneath the front tire.
Mark Wilkins has pitted. Another Mark. This is Mark Goosens, who has inherited the lead of this motor race over Bill Aublin, Nick Johnson, Mamo Gidley, Hurley Hayward in the top 5 now. Matt Plum, Angelelli, Pruitt, Dixon, Frizzell in the top 10. That's Brian in the 61, the AIM Autosport car. So a driver change on that stint. Now Goosens brings the Stallings, Riley Matthews car in, and then Alex Gurney in 11. Dan, getting back to you, and we saw one of Eddie Cheever's cars stranded. He rang AJ Foyt and asked permission to reinvigorate, bring back to life the Coyote mark. Great that he's embraced history like that.
Yes, it is. I'm glad to hear the Coyotes back in it.
Plenty of action on pit lane. Let's start with Brian.
Mark Goosens out of the 91. Jim Matthews will be getting in. Should be a routine stop. A lot of debris already in the radiator of this 91 car. Remember, we saw a lot of fluid out of the back of the 99 when he pitted, so temperatures could be an issue. They got to keep these grills clear if they want to keep the temperatures down, Cal.
Well, the Ruby Tuesday team has certainly rebounded from a struggle at a test session, but right now they have a very competitive race car. Seems like they're just single-stinting their driver. Bill Aublin has jumped out. There's Pat Long, who's really just going to do a one-off here, as we understand it. He switched over to the Penske Racing Group for a run in ALMS this year, but he's taken over behind the wheel, very familiar with this team, so everything looking good, just waiting on fuel. Brian.
Leader in GTN, the Mazda RX-8, the Castrol Syntex car of Speed Source. Nick Ham taking over behind the wheel. This car has been running so well. We understand full course caution. They need to get this pit stop completed, get him back on track. Lee?
Second caution of the day. First on lap 14. We've got 51 in the books already. So last year, this time we went the first 100 laps without a caution, and already 2 within just over 50 laps. That just shows how frantic and how dramatic this start has been, and not all of it in the positive sense. Some teams experiencing drama. So the Speed Source car serviced and sent. Will this one be there at the end in the GT class? Can it take the fight and beat the Porsches? And who will stand on top in the Daytona prototype class? At the moment, it's Gidley. Reminding you, tomorrow at 6 a.m. Eastern, our coverage of this wonderful event, the Rolex 24 at Daytona, continues live right through to the end, including some post-race entertainment as well. And that is the Dorsey Schrader fan club down there.
Hi, guys.
Did you paint that, Dorse?
No.
Reminding you, you can email us. This is something that we love as much as you do. Email us here at the booth, speedtv.com. Follow the lead, follow the instructions there. Send in your questions, whatever it might be, whoever it may be to, and we will do our best to answer your questions. Lee Diffie, Dorsey Schrader here along with Brian Till, Calvin Fish, Chris Neville. And we have the legend, Dan Gurney, here with us. We're under caution. There's lots going on down in pit lane. Brian.
Memo Gidley climbs out of the number 77, the leading Daytona prototype. He'll hand over to Fabrizio Golan. Golan ran this series in 2005, finished 5th in this race. So experienced in a Daytona prototype, and this is great news for Kevin Dorn to see this car up in the lead. But can they keep it there for the duration, Calvin?
Well, the number 10 SunTrust machine is in, and you expect that to be a routine start. Well, it's anything but routine right now because it's Wayne Taylor's son. His Daytona prototype debut here in the biggest race of the season is now jumping in behind the wheel. I just looked at his dad, Wayne Taylor. He was just biting his nails. He is so nervous. But right now, the crew's doing a little bit of work on the front grills here, so everything looking routine. Let's go down to Brian.
99 back on pit road. Alex Gurney still behind the wheel. Fuel only. He's away.
Mr. Gurney, you said to me in the commercial break, this is all very early, this is all very frantic, this race hasn't even taken shape yet. Is there at any point in a 24-hour enduro where it takes shape?
Yes, there is, but I don't know when that point comes.
Well, something I've noticed lately, and I just saw it on the 10 car, is that the rubber coming off these tires, the spent rubber out on the racetrack, is causing damage to the radiator grill. That's what they changed on the 10 car. Also, I heard Brian Till report that they had to clean off a lot of that rubber. Now, these new Pirelli tires are of a softer compound than the old Hoosiers. With that being said, they're going to leave that bits of rubber around, and we're only 2 hours into a 24-hour race. This racetrack could get real dirty.
Other than seeing the checkered flag first, was there a favorite time you had in a 24-hour?
Oh, if you're still going strong and you see the dawn, there's something about that that's a great feeling. And,
First light gives you that second win on the run to the checkered flag, and that's what they're all looking for. There's the captain and Tim Cindric campaigning the number 9. Will they be victorious?
No one's gonna catch me.
Back at Daytona International Speedway, and frantic activity on pit road with this most recent full course caution. First up DP, second up GT, and then third time around anyone can go in. There's no pattern. These are the new rules within the Grand American Road Racing Association, the Rolex Sports Car Series. And look at that. 9 total race leaders today already. 9 race leaders. Dorse, you'd say there's a lot of swip swapping.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot more, too, because we're a long way to go. We had this caution came out because of a couple stranded cars. The 52 and the 40 were broke down. We looked at the 40 with the flat tire. You can add the 16 to that. Unfortunately, Eddie Cheever's car coming out of the infield onto the banking just died. Looks like it just pulled over on the apron, and it now is behind a tow truck being towed back to be serviced.
We're very pleased to have the company of Dan Gurney with us here in the speed booth. One more question for you, Dan. We were just chatting about it briefly in the break. When Alex and John got their first win at Mexico City last year, as we see the Penske Taylor car being serviced, did you notice a change in your son? Did his confidence rise? Did he start to mature, or was he always like that?
Well, that's a good question. I think it did change. I mean, if you're waiting and waiting and waiting, and you seem to be doing the best you can all the time, and when it finally happens, it really feels great. And you know, that's one of the things that's in the history books, and you love it. Now he maintains that focus since then, and I think I think there was a change.
You know, I remember that race when they won the first time, and how elated Bob Stallings was for one. They had 2 drivers as well, but I think it brought the whole team to a new level. You know, they finally got that win. They were been trying so hard, and boy, they stepped up to the batter's plate and didn't look down. I mean, they just kept on swinging all year long.
Yes, they did.
You have been a hero to so many young drivers, and you have so many fans. On the other side of the coin, are you a fan of anyone out here at the moment? Is there any driver within world motorsport, F1, NASCAR, sports cars, who you really say that's my, other than your son, of course, that's my man? I'm very impressed with what he does.
You know, I haven't been at a Formula One race, but Alonso and I'm trying to think of
Lewis Hamilton.
Lewis Hamilton's name.
Yeah.
Yes. That looks like a terrific shootout, and but I haven't actually been able to watch him in person.
Let's get with Calvin on pit road.
I'm here with the man, Roger Penske. Roger, first of all, great to see you back here at the 24-hour race. I know that Tim Cindric said during the test week you'd been itching to get back. What made it happen?
Well, I guess 40 years ago maybe was the last time we were here, but we've had so much fun with our LMP2 cars, and seeing these guys run here, we just wanted to come back, and we got 3 great drivers, and a little bad break there. I think we flat spotted a tire, and that's what blew the right front. So we got to be careful. We got back on the lead lap now, but it's a long way to go. We just got started.
It's a great strategy there. Try and talk us through, if you can, what happened with the consequences of the pit lane being closed and you staying out.
Well, I think we lost the lap because we went around on the oval, so we lost the lap automatically. Then we had a chance here under this yellow. We waited out and let the other guys pit and got our lap back, but we got a long way to go.
All right, mate, great to see you back.
Yeah, thanks a million.
I can explain that a little bit. You see, the timing and scoring beacon that picks up the car when you go by isn't at start-finish line here at Daytona. In fact, it's down between turn 1 and turn 2. When Helio lost that tire, he didn't make the turn to the infield. That was smart on his part. He went straight around the banking. However, he lost that timing beacon, and it put him a lap down. He didn't have a choice.
For the first time today, the sun is really starting to punch through the cloud cover. We've had very mixed weather conditions so far today, and quite challenging conditions. But as you can see, it's lifting. That cloud cover is lifting. And in various spots of the speedway, over in NASCAR 3, it is starting to bathe the speedway in sunshine. More, Calvin?
Well, just the consequence of this new pit rule under caution, Lee. Of course, the pit lane closes, which means DPs have to essentially wait a lap to come in. And what Roger and his team did with the number 9 machine with Castroneves behind the wheel is kept him out there. So when all of the leaders came in, he then assumed the same lap as them. Then he caught up with the back of the pack, did his pit stop, and got back out before the leaders came back around. So he's back on that lead lap, and that's just what we expect from the Penske organization. It may be a new series for these boys, but they certainly know how to run the rules and how to win races.
Well, that's the kind of thing on the racetrack that they give you, that you got to have a strategist to make sure you don't give back, because you can make a lap up like that, like they just did, but if you're not savvy enough to know that that's out there to grab, you'll miss it.
For those of you who are regular viewers of the Rolex Sports Car Series, you'll know this Rolex 101. Of course, we're here for the full day, 24 hours. 66 cars took the flag. Just the 2 classes, Daytona prototypes and the GT class, and a maximum of 5 drivers per car. That's how it works. And as far as some maximums there, etc., what the drivers are allowed to do. And you must at least have 1 hour off. And these are all for safety, of course, 1 hour off between driving stints. The 02 of Scott Dixon leads the way.
Of course, Dan, when you drove this, and in fact, the first time I drove it, one driver, if he was crazy enough, could have stayed out there for the whole 24 hours.
Yep. These old guys must have been awfully tough.
Getting ready to come to green. End of our second full caution period. The new Pontiac G8 exits the circuit, heads down pit road, and Scott Dixon will see a clear, clean track ahead with Jim Matthews tucked in right behind. We go racing again. Brian Frizzell in the AIM Autosport 61. There he goes by. He's in 3rd place car. Justin Wilson is 4th. Ian James for Mike Shank Racing is in 5. Patrick Long for Ruby Tuesday is in 6th position, and then Ricardo Zonta for Crone Racing. He'll be with us all season long as well. Zonta is there in 7th position. Alan McNish steps behind the wheel of the number 2 Samax entry for the Florida Children's Hospital. Then Scott Pruitt, then Alex Gurney rounds out the 10.
And there's a spin, one of the Brumos cars. No contact with anyone yet.
It's the 59. The green highlighting tells us that. And it's João Barbosa, the Portuguese driver.
You have to be very careful on these restarts. You've got a shuffle of new drivers coming in, new tires on the car, very slippery for the first couple laps out, and all the traffic's mixed up. You got GT cars all entwined with the DP cars.
70 Speed Source Mazda. Nick Ham leads the way from Emmanuel Collard, a former overall winner of the Rolex 24. He's racing for TRG as we ride the 10 with 18-year-old Ricky Taylor.
His debut, I bet he's got butterflies, boy. I tell you what, it's a big burden on a young man like that to be in a big-time race like this and a good car like he's got. A lot of weight on his shoulders.
What advice do you have for him, Dan?
I have none. Hold on. It's a different era. Well, he's doing the great job. Just keep doing that.
Well, everybody expects a lot out of him, and I don't think he'll disappoint. I really don't. He's a very savvy young man.
He was somewhat frustrated not to win the Skip Barber National Series as he skips through the bus stop last year. But there aren't too many that graduate the Skip Barber National Series and get graduate that and get sent straight to the Rolex 24 at Daytona with a championship and 24-hour race-winning team.
No, you and I talked about it, Lee. In fact, all of us boys talked about, is this a smart decision or not? Well, I personally think it's a smart decision because of the weight on his shoulders. I don't think he'll make a mistake. And what better way to get experience than to go out here and put him in the deep end?
And he has to be decisive. He has to get through the traffic. He has to be smart. He has to be patient. He has to be all of those things at 18.
You saw right there he was very patient. In fact, lost a few positions that he might not have had to give up, but you know, better to be wise than make a mistake.
Calvin Fish, tell us more about the SunTrust car.
Well, I think everyone was certainly very apprehensive. He's got some testing under his belt, young Ricky Taylor, but race conditions are a totally different deal. But I think what really helped him, guys, was making that pit stop under caution, because it allowed him to go out, not have to get onto the gas hard immediately. And these Pirelli tires have certainly got a unique characteristic when they are new, so it really allowed him just to get up speed gradually. And I think talking to Wayne Taylor, he was very happy about that happening with the sequence of the pit stops.
Young Ricky has a similar helmet designed to his father. Wayne has the big W on the side of the helmet. Ricky has the R kind of backwards.
Now, the one thing that he's going to have to get used to that we don't know what will be the reaction yet is the fact that when he ran these Skip Barber races, they're only a half-hour long, and you're in an open cockpit car. These cars are very hot. If he double stints this car, he's going to be in there for better than 2 hours, and that can play a complete mind game with you if you're not used to it.
And 2 cars back is the GT leader. That is Nick Ham, 22nd overall already. And Sylvain Tremblay, the team principal, was telling me yesterday that, yes, we don't have the fuel efficiency of the Porsches and the other cars, but we do have the outright speed and we do have the maneuverability. He said, I believe we can get through the infield section better than the others, faster, more efficiently than the others. So what we lose on the fuel efficiency, we'll get back with our racecraft and our general speed out on track. So it's going to be a tremendous battle. The TRG 67 has been shadowing them all the way along. Spencer Pumpelly had a great start with a double stint, and Emmanuel Collard is behind the wheel right now. The Synergy car, Patrick Huisman in the 81, he's right there.
But that Mazda is the lightest car in the GT field, so it pays some dividends, particularly in braking areas and acceleration off corners. Now, it doesn't have the most powerful engine, but the Mazda is known for the reliability, but it's up against a Porsche that is also a very reliable car.
Steve Johnson, Big Steve. He likes to be called the big dog. Former New England Patriots player. He said, I've named all my boys. He calls them his boys. Of course, I'm Big Dog. And this man here in the 81, Patrick Huisman, he's the Flying Dutchman, a.k.a. Wooden Shoes, is his name from Steve Johnson. I'll give you the others a little bit later.
Yeah, if you can. Steve Johnson is a colorful character. He's one of our great friends. We like going out with him. He is a funny man.
He's excited about the upcoming Super Bowl as well. Our Chris Neville's been pressuring him for tickets, but unsuccessful so far. Jörg Bergmeister runs in third in the 86. He's having a great scrap here. The 07 is next in GT.
You're not telling me the king of shady side deals is failing.
I guess we have to wait for a definitive answer.
That's right.
Another former overall winner in Jim Pace in the 64 is a little further back, but look at this. The two Farnbacher Lowell's cars, the 86 and 88, side by side. Farnbacher Lowell's, incidentally, will run 3 cars permanently throughout this season.
One of the driver instructors at Skip Barber for many, many years, me, Jim Pace, Barry Waddell, Terry Hill, a bunch of guys put a lot of years in at Skip. Jim's still a very, very good driver, a good coach, driver-coach.
Let's just run down that GT lineup for you. Nick Ham leads, Manuel Collard second, Huisman third, Bergmeister in the 86 is fourth, Kelly Collins, the best of the Pontiacs, is fifth, and then the famous 66 for TRG in sixth. As we ride with Kelly Collins right now, and was that the 66 that just blew on by? I think it was.
Yeah, and like I said before, this Pontiac has got such a wide frontal area. It's such a big car that its forte is in the infield, not certainly up on the banking. It would be nice to have something bigger than it to draft off of, but there is nothing bigger than it.
New car tucked in behind there. That's the 57 Stevenson Motorsports Pontiac GXPR. Andrew Davis behind the wheel. He and Robin Liddell, of course, well known for their Porsche exploits, but something different here, tackling that big Pontiac, and that team headed up by Mike Johnson. John Stevenson, the owner, very pleased to have that. For Dorsey and myself, it's time for us to farewell. David Hobbs, Bob Varsha will be stepping into the booth here. Andrew Marriott, Chris Neville will be down on pit road shortly. We thank Dan Gurney. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you, Lee. Enjoyed it.
We'll be back in just a moment.